Today, I will talk about second language acquisition and some important concepts related to the field. Before I introduce you to the important concepts of SLA, I will first give an introduction, explain what second language acquisition is, and then present major concepts. People in the modern society have wider access to the global community thanks to the advancement of modern technology and services. The ability to interact with people from diverse backgrounds has become increasingly important to gain competitiveness in this contemporary era where everything changes so fast. A lot of people these days are multilingual, meaning that they are able to speak more than one language. Studies on second language acquisition provide observation on various aspects of second language learning that are crucial to both the process and achievements of attaining a certain level of linguistic competence. Today, I'll explain some important concepts related to second language acquisition, also known as SLA. SLA is an acquisition of an additional language that is non-native, meaning that the language is acquired after a speaker has already acquired his or her mother tongue. The term second language can be used interchangeably with non-native language and target language. Native language, which is also called one's first language or mother tongue, is acquired as the speaker's initial language. Although acquisition and learning is commonly used in the same sense, they are quite different. Acquisition refers to the process by which learners pick up a language in the target language environment, and therefore it is a subconscious process. However, learning indicates a conscious process of accumulating knowledge of language, such as in formal language classroom settings. L2 acquisition and foreign language learning also differ in that L2 acquisition is an acquisition of a non-native language in the environment in which that language is spoken, while foreign language learning is the learning of a non-native language in the environment of one's native language. There are many factors that contribute to enhancing our understanding of how to effectively acquire second language. First, age is an important factor, as the critical period hypothesis explains that there is a specific and limited time period for language acquisition, which is from early childhood up to puberty. Therefore, the faster the better. Culture is also an important aspect of language learning. Culture is shared patterns of behaviors, including social interaction, dress, food, and language. Cultures can be learned. It is changeable and diverse. Getting to know other cultures and becoming a part of them involves 4 stages: honeymoon, culture shock, recovery, and adjustment or adaptation. In the second step, people are highly inclined to encounter culture shock, which accompanies features of short temper, fear, and physical sickness. Culture shock is a result of losing familiar ways of social interaction that accompanies defense mechanisms like repression, regression, isolation, and even rejection. In order to overcome culture shock, it is highly recommended that people keep busy, participate in a variety of activities, learn the language and the customs. Affective factors also influence second language acquisition, especially negative feelings such as anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling of uneasiness, apprehension, or worry. There are 2 types of anxiety, which are trait anxiety and state anxiety. Trait anxiety is a consistent predisposition to be anxious about or fearful of many things in general, while state anxiety refers to the anxiety experienced in relation to some particular event or situation. Self-esteem is the self-judgment of worth or value expressed in the attitudes that individuals hold towards themselves. General findings prove that L2 learners' high self-esteem leads to improvements in L2 learners' oral performance. Therefore, it can be said that learners' self-esteem is positively correlated with their oral language production capacity. The concept of inhibition in SLA refers to the tendency to build sets of defenses to protect one's ego. Those with low inhibition tend to possess higher self-esteem, ego, and strength compared to those who have high inhibition with lower self-esteem, who tend to be highly inhibited, self-conscious to protect what is self-perceived to be a weak or fragile ego. Language learning requires high motivation and willingness of the learner. One's effort to try out hunches about the language and take the risk of making mistakes greatly contributes to one's language learning. So it is essential that one takes risks even though he or she may not be so perfect. One's motivation is also an effective factor that decides the extent of active personal engagement in learning. So for effective learning, it is important for teachers to provide adequate motivations for students. In the same sense, personalities of learners have impact on their language improvements. Extroverts, who mostly get energy from the outside world and prefer social interactions, are more likely to try out producing language output. On the other hand, introverts generally get energy from inner self and prefer spending time alone. So they would prefer a completely different learning style from the extroverted students. There are three major theories regarding how learners acquire languages. The first approach is the behavioristic approach, which insists that all learning, including language learning, takes place through habit formation processes. This theory suggests that the process of imitating sounds and patterns is a positive reinforcement that forms habits of correct language use. According to the behavioristic theory, language learning is the outcome of imitation, practice, positive reinforcement, and habit formation. Secondly, the nativist or innatist approach claims that language acquisition is innately determined and people are born with a genetic capacity to learn a language without being taught. So unlike the behavioristic approach, the nativist approach highlights the child's innate abilities over the environmental factors. Next, according to the interactionist approach, children acquire language through interactions, especially conversations with their caretakers. So far, I have introduced basic concepts and studies in the field of SLA. SLA is not only helpful in understanding the language acquisition process, but also holds pedagogical implications that could assist learning of students. In addition, the studies could be used for classroom designs and to revise teachers' teaching styles.